Ladies and gentlemen, are we still in the morning? No, I think it's good afternoon. It's good afternoon, and I know it's been a great week here. A wonderful, wonderful time. It's just phenomenal to see delegates from 80 countries of the world with their focus travelling from all over the globe, and many, many more who wanted to be here and could not be here, to share, to listen to one another, to bring in your pocket and in your heart that piece of the jigsaw puzzle that you alone have, that needs to find its matching part if we are to create a globe where the rights of children have meaning, are lived, are real in the smiles and in the hearts of happy children. And I hope that you've had a great time with each other, that you have learnt a lot, that you've shared a lot, and that you're going home really refreshed in this great vocation that you have to the children of the world. I want, of course, to say a very special thank you to Siobhan Fitzpatrick of Early Years for her invitation to be here. Siobhan's an old friend, so I couldn't possibly say no. That's the first thing. I wouldn't ever dare to say no to Siobhan anyway, as you will have discovered, because I have such admiration for her. She has been the most relentless, formidable advocate on behalf of children for as long as I have known her. Not only was she instrumental in bringing this remarkable gathering, this global gathering of the global family together here in Belfast, which was a huge amount of work, but in the middle of it she also managed to get her daughter married. So to be mammy of the bride in 1 year is big enough, but to organise a conference in the same year is just quite... Well, anyway, it's the kind of thing that she does, which is brilliant. And I know that that same passion for the subject is what brought each of you, many of you, very long journeys on this 10th anniversary of the World Forum, and as we heard, this 20th anniversary of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. It seems remarkable, doesn't it, that it would take us right into the latter half of the 20th century to get around as a world family, to enunciating the rights of a child. Not giving them, not awarding them, acknowledging their existence. Their existence because they exist not by way of a gift. They exist not by way of dribbled, begrudging rights that someone in authority decides you may have. These are rights that arise because you're a human person. Because you're a human person. That's it. They are not concessions. They are things that arise out of our very humanity. I've just come from the place where I was born. I was born about a stone's throw away from here. Well, a rather long stone. But we're very good at throwing stones here, so we probably could throw a stone, actually. So if you, with Belfast experience, if you're through with a Belfast arm, you certainly could hit our house from here. And anyway, I was one of 9 kids. My grandmother, my mother and her sisters and brothers between them had 60 children. My family thought they had to increase, multiply and fill the earth entirely by themselves. And almost succeeded. But my grandmother always had a great phrase that I think she borrowed it from somewhere, and it was that what's learnt in childhood is engraved on stone. And it's true. Cynthia Ozick put it a little bit more melodiously, perhaps less tersely, when she said, "What we remember from childhood, we remember forever. Permanent ghosts, stamped, inked, imprinted, eternally seen." But I kind of like my granny's phrase. She had a way with words. And when you're talking to, she had 11 kids and 60 grandchildren and 100 and whatever it is, 35 great-grandchildren, you keep it short and meaningful. What's learnt in childhood's engraved on stone. And it came back to me how important that phrase was when my grandfather died and we put up his grave. The tradition here is that we put up a headstone with his, with the name of the dead person engraved, usually in granite. So the headstone went up, and when it went up, my grandfather died on the 21st of February, but some genius, instead of writing 21ST, had written 21ND. Obviously didn't go to any schools that you were associated with. And So I said to the guy who put up the headstone, look, it's a small flaw, but actually when you're standing here, your eye is always drawn to the one tiny flaw. Everything else is right, but that one thing is the thing that, we're human. We're always drawn to the flaw. And could you just etch it out? And he said, no, he said, we cannot do it. It's etched too deeply in the stone. He said, what we'll do is we'll just take that stone down, we'll discard it, and we will put up a new one. Great. We're talking about granite. We engrave in our children badly, we can't discard the child. We can't just take it down and put up a new one. We get one go around with our children. And so we who are the engravers on their lives, mothers, fathers, community, teachers, family, friends, peers, leaders, we have to engrave well. And we have to know and be taught how to engrave well. God knows we have plenty of experience of engraving badly. We've learnt a lot on this island about the permanent ghosts of childhood, that bad engraving on children's lives, because so many children's lives in this city, on this island, were blighted, were skewed by sectarian violence, political bitterness, these things that were taught in the home. They were learnt. Children are not born bigots, children are not born racists. These are learnt. These are taught, carefully taught. They're learnt in the community. They're picked up very often from the attitudes of people that we love deeply and who love us deeply. And so we have, and we've also seen in this city in very recent days, rather sadly, the outworking of racism and the misery it can inflict on the innocent. And we have focused so much on those who are the victims, quite rightly, but I also think of those who inflict that misery. They didn't start out like that. Somewhere their lives too got skewed. Somewhere their potential to be good, gorgeous human beings, good people, sources of good in the community, somehow all those chances of engraving on their lives went wrong, horribly wrong. And of course, recently, south of the border where I've just come from too, we've had cruel stories of institutional abuse, systemic abuse of children, vulnerable children, in mainly orphanages and childcare institutions. And they demonstrate to us, because we're hearing these stories now not from children, we're hearing them from children grown into adulthood, looking back on the landscape of wreckage of their lives and being able to put it together in a way they could not, to understand it in a way they could not as children, sadly. And through their lives, through all of these miseries, we see how a childhood that is used badly, where the engraving is done incorrectly, it robs them not only of the childhood we would wish for every child, but that damage acts like a kind of a wrecking ball all the way through their lives, in their relationships, in their underachievement, in their ill health, particularly mental ill health, and the sheer appalling waste that is their potential. And though there is good news on the horizon, and that is the capacity of the human person to change, to learn, to do what you're doing here, to give each other the benefit of your wisdom and experience, so we have this global resource of good practice, best practice, things that work, things that don't work, to share with one another. And today, the people of this island, north and south in this city, they've taken ownership of their problems, whether it's sectarianism, whether it was institutional systemic abuse of children. They have taken ownership of these problems in a way that previous generations did not. Covered up, couldn't face into, didn't want to face into, wanted to deny. Not in this generation. This generation, the most educated we have ever had, now has the gumption and the courage to say, actually, we're going to face into these problems and we're going to deal